Shalom. Shalom and welcome, my brothers and sisters. Welcome. This is Man's Final Steps. It is a continuing series to those that will be among the ranks of the 144,000 in multitude mentioned in Revelation chapters 7 and 14. My name is Symmanayah. Today is February 12th, 2014. And these are the words I am compelled to present to you, my brothers and sisters. This is a continuation of a multi-part segment. The segment is entitled Delegates from 12 Tribes, 12 Characteristics, and this is part 2 of that multi-part segment. And before I get started, my brothers and sisters, as I was setting up to begin this recording, just this very moment, it was as though the Spirit of Yahusha came to me and said, though man have mixed blood, DNA, and chromosomes, though the flesh have been mixed in many ways, this in no wise infected the legacy of the spirit of an individual. And it was as though the Spirit of Yahusha was saying, pose this question to those who would listen. Is the spirit of a man far greater than the flesh of a man? Is the spirit of a man much stronger, much more resilient than the flesh, the earthen body? I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, in my prayer, in my communion with the Spirit of Yahusha, I am indeed compelled to believe that the spirit of man is far greater and far stronger than the flesh. Given that the flesh will return back to the earth from which it came, but it is the spirit of man that sleeps. It is the spirit of man that will be transformed and brought before the throne of judgment. It is the spirit of man that will either have life immeasurably, eternally with Yahusha HaMashiach, or everlasting damnation, depending on what side you're on. So I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, though there has been mixing and man has broadcast, well, there's no way we can know who from the 12 tribes of Yasharal, we all been mixed, and that Yasharal or Israel no longer exists. I submit to you, this is wicked and evil teachings, and that the spirit of the 12 tribes, the characteristics that are reflective of the spirit of the 12 tribes of Yasharal, have been preserved throughout the days, throughout the ages, my brothers and sisters. And there will be a discerning call to those who will be among the ranks of the 144,000. There will be a call to you individually. And as we focus on Yahusha HaMashiach, we will come to know our true identity and what is tasked, what is expected of us, at least those who will be among the ranks of the 144,000, as well as those who will be among the multitude that will come out of the great tribulation. They will come to acknowledge, confirm, and walk with us. Pray and watch, my brothers and sisters, for proof will come. The refining process and the perfecting process will produce what is so ordered by the Spirit of Yahusha. Let us continue to examine characteristics regarding the 12 tribes, regarding the 12 patriarchs of each tribe. And I ask you again, could the words that I present to you represent something of grave importance regarding the 144,000 in these last days? So I will continue this multi-part segment speaking on Manasseh and Ephraim. Allow me to reread the following. Genesis 48:11 through 20. And Yasharal said to Joseph, I had not thought to see your face, but see, Elohim has also shown me your seed. So Joseph brought them from between his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand towards Yasharal's left, and Manasseh his left hand towards Yasharal's right hand, and brought them near him. And Yasharal stretched out his hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, consciously directing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, the Elohim before whom my fathers, Abraham, Yitzhak walked, the Elohim who has fed me all my life long to this day, the messenger who has redeemed me from all evil, bless the youth, and let my name be called upon the name of my mighty fathers Abraham, Yitzhak, and let them increase to a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on his head, on the head of Ephraim, it was evil in Joseph's eyes, and he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from the head of Ephraim to the head of Manasseh. And Joseph said to his father, not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. Now keep in mind, Joseph was not being disrespectful. Yasharal was old and aged, and his eyes were becoming dim, so Joseph thought maybe he was making a mistake. But anyway, moving on to the 19th verse, but his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also becomes a people, referring to Manasseh, becomes a people, and he also is great. And yet his younger brother is greater than he, and his seed is to become the completeness of the nations. And he blessed them on that day, saying, In you Yasharal shall bless, in you Yasharal shall bless, saying, Elohim make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. Thus he put Ephraim before Manasseh. My brothers and sisters, I ask you, as we read this passage, Yasharal, commonly known as Israel, whose former name was Jacob or Yaakov, consider Genesis 48:14 and 19. Ephraim became first and Manasseh last. But keep in mind, though, in 48:19, Yasharal states that Manasseh also is great. Now consider the following verses while I read these. I ask you, do you see consistency in the works of the Almighty Father Yahuwah regarding the first shall be last and the last first? And I'm referencing Matthew 19th chapter, verse 30, where Yahusha said, but many that are first shall be last, and the last shall be first. As well as Matthew 20:16. So the last shall be first, and the first last, for many be called, but few chosen. But if you read, so we see Ephraim became greater than Manasseh. But if you read in Revelation 7:6, we see Manasseh representing one of the 12 tribes, and Ephraim is not mentioned. Why? Because as their grandfather Yasharal spoke to them and said, Manasseh is great also. So we see in Revelation 7:6 that Manasseh is the eldest son of Joseph, and we see he represents the replacement of Dan, which had turned to carved images and false idols. If you doubt, consider Judges 18th chapter, 30th verse, and it reads as follows. And the children of Dan set up for themselves the carved image, and Jehonathan son of Gershom, son of Manasseh, and his sons were priests to the tribe of Dan until the day the land was taken into exile. Of course, that is another story, but I wanted to reiterate why Dan is not mentioned among the 12 tribes of Yasharal in Revelation. Going back to Manasseh and Ephraim's encounter with their grandfather, Yasharal, commonly known as Israel, Yaakov, or Jacob. Genesis 48:14 through 15 demonstrates the charge to remember the patriarchs. The patriarchs are often mentioned across the globe as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, or Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yasharal, or Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, with each variant depending on what translation you use. Nevertheless, these labels are referencing the patriarchs from Abraham to Yitzhak to Yasharal. If you go back to verse 16 where Yasharal states, and let them increase to a multitude in the midst of the earth, one can witness the relationship with this blessing in the description of Joseph in chapter 49, 22 to 26, of which I will speak in another segment. We can see these things occurred over times past, and we see them occurring now. The power of Joseph's blessing, the power in his son Manasseh and Ephraim, echoing the patriarch's name, continues to this day. My brothers and sisters, notice again how Manasseh and Ephraim are the grandsons of Yasharal, but yet we witness them receiving blessings first in Genesis 48 chapter, before Yasharal gathered his sons in chapter 49 of Genesis. Again, there's a consistency in the flow of righteousness as it relates to the first being last and the last should be first. If we have eyes to see and ears to hear, hear and witness the consistency and demonstration of righteousness. These are end times, and we have entered into man's final steps. I believe we can truly say with confidence the patriarchs' names have been echoed over the ages. We have continually witnessed many who echo the names of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yasharal, or a representation of their names mistranslated. Over and over again, we see that the patriarchs' names are still among our memories and among our thoughts. We have seen over the years the power of the charge reflective of the blessing given to their father, Joseph, flowing through his sons. Remember this charge regarding Manasseh and Ephraim. Remember these characteristics. Also pray for discernment and understanding to know the charge that they had come to receive came with power, and the messages came with power in order to preserve the patriarch's name throughout the ages. The message came with strength and power, for the patriarchs' names were preserved and are preserved to this day. This concludes part 2 of this multi-part segment entitled Delegates from 12 Tribes, 12 Characteristics. Yes, there are 12 distinct characteristics of each. Stay tuned as this multi-part segment continues. Until next time, remember the 144,000 in multitude will come to be, and it is my belief, understanding, and position wholeheartedly that we are being refined and perfected to fulfill what is written in Scripture. Until next time, stay tuned for part 3. Shalom, shalom, shalom.